You don't want to just sell them a house. That's not the end goal here. You know, you don't want to just sell them a house and say, congratulations, maybe I'll see you later on.
You want to find them a home.
I want to find them a home, and I want to like be your friend, whether you want to be my friend or not. I want to be your friend.
You're listening to the Uptown Girls podcast. I'm your host, Martina Barley. Let's talk. I think you're the most nervous guest.
Is that
You're
obvious?
making me nervous.
I don't know if I should like not move.
You're just a human being in a room talking. Like, everything's okay. When I ask you, like,
Usually it's actually the opposite. Inside, I'm like dying, but on the outside, I'm usually pretty chill.
Do you feel okay on the inside? Because you don't seem like it. But
all right, we're just going to relax.
Everything's fine.
Very
Welcome
cool.
to the Uptown Girls podcast.
Thank you for having me.
All we're going to do today is talk about real estate, okay? That's all we're going to do.
Cool. Love it.
You're the first person that's ever brought me Starbucks.
What?
Yeah.
That should be like a normal thing.
I know. I think it's very sweet. It makes me very happy. Oh. And now we're going to have a great episode.
Yeah, now every guest going forward, it's
Starbucks.
They should feel the need to bring you Starbucks.
I completely agree.
Totally.
So Taylor is my friend, first of all, my realtor, my confidant.
Your therapist.
My therapist, yeah. She does it all. But really, I think that I wanted you to come on because, A, I love real estate and I love talking about real estate. But it's also like, obvious. To say it's a hot topic sounds stupid, but like I feel like people our age are really buying houses more than they were 5-10 years ago. Yeah. Obviously, right? We're in our early 30s. Are you 30? Even?
31.
31, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, our peers are all buying houses, and I think even we know, both of us, a lot of people that now not only own their house, but they have rental properties, too. And I also feel like we know a good amount of realtors.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of us.
A lot.
It's not the most difficult thing in the world to get your real estate license. So
maybe not to get the license, but it is to be successful.
Sure.
So
totally.
Let's back up. What did you do before real estate?
So I was the district manager at Zoomtan for 5 years, very much, engulfed in the corporate world. And it was super fulfilling at the time because I was so young. I was in my early 20s. I was managing like 40 employees. It was all like a bunch of girls in a tanning salon. Totally seemed like, my vibe.
Yeah.
And I loved the tanning industry for so long.
Don't we all?
Don't we all? And one day, it wasn't really anything super specific that just kind of struck me. I was just like, I need something new. There's no way I'm going to be able to do this forever. And I put a post up on Facebook saying that, who has a real estate license? Like, what do I need to do? Totally not expecting it to go anywhere.
Wow.
And my business partner to this day, my team leader, was the first one. I swear she had it on like an alert. Yeah. Like as soon as Taylor's interested. Because she did try recruiting me a couple of years prior and I just was not in that space. And she was the first one to comment on it and be like, hello, me, you know?
I've been waiting for you.
I've been waiting for you, literally. And the rest is history. We met for coffee. I interviewed for one of the positions that was on the team. It was a showing partner role. I was not licensed yet, obviously. Went in, interviewed, got the job, got licensed within 3 months, and that was it.
Wow. What year was that?
2018.
Wow. Do you remember when we met? Do you remember how we met?
Yeah, through...
We were dating friends.
Someone.
Yeah. Two someones. Yeah, we were dating two friends. And I remember them telling me about you before I met you. And they were like, she runs all of Zoomtan for all of Rochester. Like, she's so great. She's just like you. And I was
That's
like,
right.
She's just like me.
Well, it was because it was before I was licensed.
Yeah.
I totally thought I met you after real estate.
No. You met me at my old house in Penfield.
I did. Yeah. And I'll never forget coming over for dinner for the first time.
I'll never forget it either.
Right?
We forgot those two, but we didn't forget each other. So special. So, okay, it's 2018. You're in real. What was the market like in 2018? I don't even remember.
Well, so in comparison to, like, the market has always been, I shouldn't say always, but for the last many years, it's been a seller's market. And for
what does that mean? Yeah.
Right. So for those that, and if there's listeners in other areas, like a lot of the market shift has kind of happened in other places, but Rochester has still remained incredibly strong in terms of a seller's market. So what that means is the seller's favored in multiple offer situations where the seller pretty much always wins. So you have a house, right? One singular house and a pool of buyers that want that one house. The seller has the upper hand to say, I get to choose from all these amazing offers. I get the most money, I get the best terms, and I get a solid buyer for my house. As, opposed to a buyer's market where maybe there's a pool of inventory, right? Like there's so many houses, but not very many buyers. We are not there. We are not even close to there. But a lot of other places in the country have kind of turned over to that. We thought it was coming. It
What
never
are the
came.
factors that turns it back to a buyer's market?
Well, I mean, you have growing rates, right? That people, they don't want to buy a house when the rates are super high. The thing with us, though, is we're never going to have an abundance of inventory. So we would have to have a huge amount of inventory, a huge surplus of people putting their houses on the market for every buyer to have a seat. Like there's just not enough places for buyers to go. So there's going to be that natural competition no matter what. Which has been a lot of the talk right now because everyone's like, no, I think I'm going to wait for the rates to go down.
Before they sell or before they buy?
Before they buy. Because
wouldn't it also make sense to wait as a seller? Because then there'll be more buyers?
Sure, but not really. Well, yeah, that's how it's remained, though, because the buyer pool is so big, it's not going to go down. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, buyers saying they're going to wait for rates to go down is just kind of like a silly thing because rates will go down, sure. Maybe that gives you a little bit more of an advantage, but all you're going to do is just be up against double the amount of buyers.
Right.
So you're back in it again.
Real estate is very, at least my experience, it's very much like a balance, and you almost have to prioritize, triage what's most important. Okay, maybe my rate will be a little bit higher, or you're always going to compromise something in real estate.
You just have to pick your evil.
Right.
You just have to pick which side you want to be on.
Yeah.
And no matter what's prevailed and what's showing is that you need to have significant amount of money down, waiving home inspection. So kind of going back to what your original question was, what was the market like in 2018, 2019? I was the showing assistant for a lead buyer specialist. That's how I got started. My whole first year was me showing homes. That was my one job. So I was in that year, over 600 houses. We helped collectively, her and I, we helped 90 buyers that year. So we were boots on the ground constantly. We were in the thick of it. And I was a part of many home inspections that year, maybe 70. I don't know the exact percentage, but I was in a lot of home inspections. And then turn over to the following year, which was COVID, people were literally buying houses through a video camera, and that was it. You couldn't go inside people's homes. Nobody wanted to list, but the people that were desperate and had to move, they had to sell, and people still needed to buy, right? People still needed to come to Rochester. Moves needed to be made. So people were like, well, I don't have a choice. I need a home for my family.
Right.
And that's what we did. We totally just pivoted to everything virtual. That's where Zoom was born and all of that.
Do you feel like that still has remained? Do you have more people today buy a house through a video than you would before that? Or
yeah,
people over
I mean, most people want.
I've done that twice. By the way,
you have done that twice. You totally did do that. Did you do that twice?
I did it with my house in Texas. I was in Rochester when I bought it, and the realtor sent me a video of it, and I said sure, and then
with me,
yeah.
It's definitely more prevalent, obviously, for people that are not able to get to Rochester super easily. Mm-hmm. I do also have that a lot come up with investors, just because they're not going to be occupying the space, so they don't care as much. But a lot of that comes with just trust. You have to sell yourself and be able to say look, I understand that this is really difficult for you and this is really scary and not the norm, and I have your best interest in mind. That's a lot on the line. It's huge. It's huge purchase.
Yeah, you're being there with somebody, an insurance agent. You're there with somebody through one of the biggest moves they'll make in their life. Literally moves.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and you don't want to just sell them a house. That's not the end goal here. You don't want to just sell them a house and say, congratulations. Maybe I'll see you later on.
You want to find them a home.
I want to find them a home, and I want to be your friend, whether you want to be my friend or not. I want to be your friend. So
when you started as a showing partner, how did you work your way up to the co-founder of?
I just wanted it so badly. I'm surrounded by, sounds like sap, but I'm truly surrounded by some of the hardest working, most incredible women. And I never had like seen anything like that before. I was not who I am today. Like a totally different world. I was totally like swept off my feet by it. And I knew I wanted to be successful. I've always been a very hard worker. I have a son who's 11 now, but at the time he was so little. We were kind of like moving around a lot, just like not stable in like a solid environment. And I was like, I need to do this for me and my kid. You know,
it's ironic that you chose real estate for stability, because real estate is one of the most unstable.
Sure. That should show you a little bit how my brain works.
Well, no, it's good, because the people that are not scared of that, it's like any commission-based job can be feast or famine depending on you and depending on the industry. But that just shows how good you are, because you were like, I don't care. This is stability.
This is my stability. Well, and I get asked that all the time. They're like, how do you do it? Like, how do you work solely off commission? And it's like, it's not right. It's not something that you just acquire that day. Like, it's a work in progress. It still is. People that have been in the business for years, it comes with time. That's all. But if it was not worth it, we wouldn't do it.
Right.
That's the end goal. So,
and that's probably why so many people think they can go into it and then they fail, or they only are in it for 6 months or a year, is because if you don't put 150 million% in, you won't live.
Well, and and I'm sure you can relate to this too, like it's all about the people you have around you. Yeah. Because I give so much credit to single agents, people that just get their license, full-fledged go into it. They just find a broker. So like I'm with Keller Williams, of course, but there's plenty of them. There's plenty of brokers to choose from. That's why it's so important, though, to not just choose the right broker, but also like your people. Yeah. Because the education piece behind it, there's, like I said, it's so easy to get your license, but to master it and to know that you're out there making a huge decision with somebody, having, their money essentially in your possession, and like, here's this $250,000 house. I'm going to help you buy this. Yeah. It's huge. So you can't just be out here not knowing what you're doing. You have to have a good support system. And I was so grateful to have found that.
Well, there's also like a level of like being humble to an extent. Like, I don't know any person that's very successful today that didn't at some point be like, okay, I'm the new kid here. I need to learn everything I can from everyone. Like, a lot of times we think we just go into a job and we know whatever, but like you'll never be successful if you're not like a sponge and just take what you can from everybody that's really good around you.
Yeah. And that was the beauty of like me starting on my team as the showing partner. I was able to go inside. Like, there are agents that have been in the industry for 10 years and still haven't been a part of as many home inspections and showings as I have. Truly.
Wow.
Like if you think about like selling a couple million a year, which is still a great accomplishment, that doesn't allow for an abundance of experience, right? Like, there's only so much that you can do. So in that first year, I essentially worked like 5 years of real estate in that 1 year, which is unheard of.
And you did that by taking a lower level job.
Oh, yeah.
Which, again, a lot of people wouldn't do.
Yeah, totally. And I knew that, too. I knew, and I think that's where the drive came from, where I was like, all right, I'm going to stay at the bottom for a little bit here, but I'm going to take it all in because I know how valuable this is. And this position doesn't come around often. I was the first one, actually. I was her very first showing partner.
That's hard to like see forward like that when you're that young.
Yeah. So young. I was 26, but I just knew I wanted it so badly, and I was ready. Like, I would see like the commission checks, and I'm like, oh no, I need that. That's mine. And they just let me spread my wings and fly, and that's where I'm at.
So, well, when did you make the transition, and how? Like, was that something you went to them and you were like, I'm ready, or were they like, Taylor, you're ready, let's go?
So I got licensed and like officially became like part of the team, like hit the ground running. It was November of 2018. So from November 2018 and all of 2019, I was my business partner's showing partner. And then 2020, they were like, you're ready. Because in 2019...
They were like, ready or not, here you come.
Right. In 2019, within that year, with her help, I did sell 4 of my own houses. 4 buyers. So I was able to experience that. She was still helping me, of course, but I got them. I picked them up at open houses. Like, I did that. So that helped me get, my feet wet. And then 2020, they were like, yeah, you're ready. You're what we would call like a full-time buyer's agent on the team. So I'm no longer the showing partner. I'm a buyer's agent. And they're like, you're, spread your wings and fly, girl. And then COVID. And I'm like, this would be my life, This would be my life. And I still managed to have a wonderful year. I still had
Well,
an
yeah,
incredible
like you
year.
said, people still had to move.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as the world stopped, the world didn't stop.
No.
Like, people had to move. People had to...
No.
So, and probably, well, you were a buyer's agent, but I would assume that a lot of people sold their houses during COVID.
Yeah, so
Downsize?
we do have a listing agent on the team who would handle those, but I was still able to like be a part of them and shadow them and experience them. But like helping buyers was like my niche. Now I'm well versed in doing both. But
So let me just, so I understand like the structure
Yeah.
of it. And I'm sure every brokerage is different, but like, so you're a buyer's agent and you said there was one listing agent, which means that anybody that contacts your broker as a whole and says, I want to sell my house, it just goes right to her.
her, or at the time, Susan was our team leader. Yeah.
So now, because you have your own client base, they'll say, Taylor, I want to sell my house.
Yeah. So if it's a repeat client, like if it's one of my past clients or someone from my friends, family, my sphere, I'm full range to take that. But if it's still somebody that's contacting our team, my expertise is a buyer specialist. So that would still go to a listing specialist on the team. I wouldn't want to take that anyway because I love working with buyers and that's my niche. But
Why? To me, it seems like a seller is, the house is it's a seller's market. Why wouldn't you want to be the seller's agent?
Yeah, sometimes it's not that easy though. Sometimes it's really
Tell
difficult.
us about it.
Having very difficult conversations in terms of a really stubborn seller that thinks their house is worth way more than it is. And even in a market where you think like, oh, that's listed for $199.9, it's going to sell easily for $250, $275, right? Without even looking at a market analysis, just assuming that that's what it's going to sell for. If you list your house even a hair too high, you will kick yourself. It makes a huge impact. Even in a market where the demand is there. There's no doubt about it. Everyone's out there buying houses right now. If you do it wrong, you have one shot. And if you do it wrong, it looks like damaged goods and then you're backtracking. So what I'm trying to say is trust your realtor.
It's kind of scaring me.
Find your agent first and trust what they have to say. And that's why I say, like, you can go get your license. Anybody can. But until you truly trust them and they show you that level of expertise and that level of care, it's difficult to do it on your own.
What would you say are the skills needed to be a seller's agent?
Well, a seller's agent, usually sellers, they're numbers oriented, right? Because they have their eye on the money.
The money, yeah.
The end game, the prize is obviously the price and what they're going to be netting. So knowing those numbers, knowing where the seller's motivation is, right? Like, why do they want to sell? Some people don't necessarily want the most amount of money. Some of them need to make a serious move. They need to move their family across the country, a job, what have you. They need a solid buyer. So maybe they'd be willing to take 10 grand less for a really solid offer, right? You need to really know the ins and the outs of their situation to be able to accommodate a really great offer for their family. Also knowing, we obviously all need to know the market, but as a listing agent, understanding the strategy behind, okay, if I'm going to look at all of these comps in this area, right? Like if 6 houses around you have sold in the last 3 months, where exactly did they list and where did they land? Like, what does that percentage look like? And what was the strategy? Like delayed negotiations, right? When you list a house, how long do you hold those offers for? Do you do an open house? Why are you telling your seller they need an open house, right? Like, what's the value inside of that? And I think it goes both ways. Buyers agents, too, they need to have that knowledge. But sellers' conversations sound different. Buyers are really excited, right? They're like giddy and they're so happy to be buying a home.
And sellers are like,
what are you going to do for me, right? How much money are you going to make me today, So it's just being able to have those, like, really high-level strategized conversations.
How far in advance would you, like, I know this is the case for me, you're going to be listing my house in 4 months.
Heads up, Rochester, get ready.
Heads up, everybody. But like how, and I'm sure that happens with a lot of your clients where like, they're going to make a move at some point. So like how far in advance you have to be like, okay, or does the market go up and down so much that like, you're not even really going to think about my house until the week before we list it?
No, definitely not. I think about your house every day.
Good.
No. That's a good question, but I think it's hard to put like a specific timeline on it. I think that there's really no sooner time, right? Like the time, whether you're thinking about listing in 6 to 12 months, I think in terms of getting your house ready, it can be any time. Not so much as like pertinent to the market though. Like the market is more like, let's stay on top of it. Let's stay updated because the market could be, shifting around a little bit. But the strategy for getting your house ready for market is always going to remain the same. Like
Which is what?
Lots of things. Staging, making sure it's clean, making sure that repairs are done. A lot of people think they have to go like gut their kitchen, gut their bathroom. It's got to be brand new. Everything's got to be perfect. And that's not the case. But hence why you want to have your agent, if you're thinking of listing 3, 6, 9 months away, get the agent in there to tell you. I have people all the time, they have like a literal list, piece of paper with like 47 items on it. We have to do all these things before we list. And we'll go through it. I'm like, you don't have to do that at all. Nobody's going to care about that. And they're like, they're mind blown. Yeah. So it's all about the first impression, but a lot of it is really actually quite simple. Like for me, when I walk into a home and what buyers typically notice smell is huge. Smell is huge. Cleanliness is also hard to look past sometimes. I think that speaks volumes for like the integrity of the house. Wear and tear and little things like that, even like your baseboards and things, it's almost more important for like the smaller items to be cared for than the bigger things. Because also what I've noticed too is the buyers want to do stuff themselves. Right. Like you go in and redo your entire floor. They're probably going to hate it, right? Yeah. Like they're probably not going to enjoy it, so they're going to go change it themselves anyway. So bathroom renovation, kitchen renovation, unless it's already done, I would never tell somebody to go.
Yeah, that's huge.
And do that,
Yeah.
And it's a lot of money. And like, who has that these days?
Right.
It's really tough. So,
and also if you're leaving a house, you're not going to put the best of the best stuff into it. You're going to do a half-ass remodel. And
no, but it's funny. My listing partner will tell you that like she's coached people through like what to do. And then they've ended up like falling back in love with their house again.
And they haven't left?
No, I think, in most cases they've left. But, I mean, there are people that have done that. I personally did that when I was getting my house ready. I was like, wait, I love this.
Like, wait, this is so cute.
Wait, this is adorable. I don't know what I'm doing right now, but yeah. So.
You know what I've always wanted to know? Like, I love... To me, realtors are like very old school sales style, which I really love. I think it's a very long sales process, which is, we'll get to that. Remind me, I want to talk about the sales process. When realtors put something in your mailbox, it's like, hey, your home could be worth XYZ, and they solicit you to sell your house, and they talk somebody into selling their house. Does that fall through often? Because I'm always like, I can't imagine anybody getting a thing in the mail and saying, you know what, I should sell my house.
I think that's really more of just like the segue to like get in the door, right? To say like, okay, so if I drop something off in your mailbox, you're a total stranger to me. It gets you thinking. Maybe you had no intention whatsoever, right? Like most people have no intention of moving, especially right now. A lot of people, I think their issue actually is that they might want to move, right? You've been in your house for 20 years. Maybe you're an empty nester. You'd want to move, but you think it's not possible. So then like they get that thing in the mail and they're like,
well, let's talk about it.
Maybe I can, right? And if they don't have an agent relationship or somebody that's a close friend or a family member, they're probably going to let that person in the door, at least to see what they have to say. And then you put on top of it, all everybody's talking about is how there's no inventory. So it's like, you want to list your house? I can guarantee you I have a buyer for you. So does the rest of Rochester, right? So it just kind of gets that like invitation in the door. But yeah, I know several people, our team has done that before where we've sent out a mailer of some kind and we've gotten calls and people have actually done it. The more difficult side of it might be like selling what we call FSBO, for sale by owner, right? If you walk up to a door, if you're door knocking and you're like, hey, I specifically, if I'm shopping in an area, so call it Fairport, right? I have a buyer that wants to be in a very specific neighborhood. I could create a mailer, walk door to door, hopefully get a response, but at least knock on their door, put it in their mailbox, and then hope that I get some type of reaction from that neighborhood. All it takes is one person, right? To say, you know what, I was kind of thinking about it. But the likelihood of that kind of coming to fruition is really difficult, but it's not impossible. I very well could say like, hey, thank you so much for calling me. I really do have a buyer for your home. Yeah. Would you be willing to sell? And it could be an off-market deal. They might not even want to go to market. So, it's not impossible. It happens.
I see.
Yeah.
I was lost for a second with the FSBO, but they're not hiring a realtor. You're just handling the buyers.
Yeah. So instead of them putting it on the market and having like the frenzy, it's like, I have a buyer for you. What if we're willing to just pay you, right?
Yeah.
What you want for your home, and then still willing, to work with us. It's kind of a win-win. But it's difficult now knowing the market that people wouldn't list their home publicly, right? Why would you cut off the potential of, an even higher amount coming in?
Because people think they can cut out the realtor fee and it'll be worth it. When in reality, you're not going to get what you would get if you had a realtor.
Well, and that's exactly, there are still for sale by owners out there. There are people still listing on Zillow.
Can you ever see a reason to do that?
Just the saving of the commission. Some people just don't like working with agents, which I can sympathize. I do understand that sometimes it can get stressful. It depends on the person. I totally understand. And ultimately, are you willing to risk that 3% of that commission, right? To say that you don't want to maximize every dollar.
Well, could you confidently say that working with a realtor is going to increase the sale price of the home by 3%?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. There's no question. And it's not just the MLS alone. The MLS is like the most, Zillow's obviously out there. Everybody uses Zillow and browses, but like the MLS is strictly from realtors. That's how we push. Zillow, realtor.com, all those third-party sites, they get their information from our MLS.
Yeah.
It's syndicated out. So why wouldn't you want that?
This brings me to another point, because obviously you go to school or take the course or whatever to be a real estate agent. I know there's so many like laws and regulations and like conflicts of interest and stuff like that. Where is that line with like, if you have a network? Okay, so let's take your brokerage, for example. Can you go to one of your coworkers and like say, hey, I have this listing coming up. Do you have any buyers for it? Like they do on Selling Sunset.
Yeah.
Where does it become a conflict of interest if it's your buyer and your seller?
Yeah, so there's a dual agency, right? Dual agency is where you represent the buyer and the seller, but that's really only a conflict, to the buyer and the seller. They have to be in like full agreement that you are representing both of them.
Wow.
And then it kind of becomes like Switzerland, because you can't be loyal to either one of them.
Yeah.
So they just have to be well aware. But on my team, many teams work very differently, but on my team, that's why we have that differentiation between listing agent, buyer specialist. Because even though we're all under the same umbrella of bespoke, I'm a buyer specialist. My business partner's a listing specialist. So if it's her listing, but someone calls us and says, we want that house as a buyer, I can take them as a buyer, because we're still two separate agents, right?
Okay.
We might get some insider information to say like, this is where they're going. This is their motivation.
That's why when you go on Zillow and you're like, I'm interested in this house, somebody else calls you from whoever is listing the house as a buyer.
Well, it might be another team. It's like totally random. It's however, like you can pay for leads, you can pay to like have a certain neighborhood or a certain suburb or whatever. But it doesn't always go to our team. No, it should. It should be like that, but it doesn't.
Yeah. Okay. No. Well, perfect. Let's talk about marketing.
Love it.
Okay, wow, I could go on and on about marketing. Okay. What are the basics? If I was to be a realtor and I was to go off on my own, what are like some of the basics you would say I need to do to successfully build a book of business?
And like market yourself.
Well, it's hard because you're marketing your business and you're marketing the listings.
Yeah.
And they're two different things.
Well, okay, so if we hone it in on like each specific thing. So like first things first, if you're just getting licensed, right? You have no experience. You've never sold a home. So you can't be out here like sell with me, buy with me, because you don't know. You don't know what you're doing. So, it's really easy to get your license. I've said that. It's easy to do it, but it's not easy to show up as the person that everybody wants to work with, right? It's like you need to be 5 different people at all times. Like you have to be very likable, because you got to choose your path, right? Like maybe you want to work with buyers and sellers, which is great. That's great for you, which most agents do. Most agents want to do that. For me, I knew I was working solely with buyers. So I knew that my personality type, right? I worked really well with like bubbly, excited people. But at the same time, not everybody is bubbly and excited. So like, are you going to be able to kind of mesh and camouflage your way to build that better relationship with these people. Not everybody wants somebody that's in your face excited, like, let's go see this house, you know? Other people are very like calm, conservative, collective. You're not going to be the same person for everybody. So that's really what it is. It's not even like, hi, I'm licensed, like hire me as your agent. It's like, hire me as your person, you know, because this is my personality type, you know, this is who I want to be for you. So at first, it's not even really like, this is how I can sell you a house. This is how I can sell me to you. You know, you're selling your person. How's this sell themselves?
So how are you marketing yourself then? If that's what we're doing, like social media, obviously you said you do door-to-door stuff. Like what else? You guys do a lot of events.
Yeah. So my team does. I'm very grateful because my team does a lot of this for me, right? Like that's the whole point is leverage. So being on the team and having them has been a huge help. Like we send mailers, we send newsletters, we do client events. Client events are huge. So that's all stuff like within the team. But personally, yeah, social media is huge. I've gotten tons of referrals from social media, my friends and my family. But that's where my first step was. It's the first thing they teach you is lead generation to your sphere of influence. Because those are the people that know you, they love you, they trust you, they're going to refer you business because they know you're a good person. They know who you are. Yeah. So that comes before your expertise in real estate. Like, what do they say? People don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care.
Oh, that's really sweet. Yeah. I've never heard that.
You haven't?
No, maybe I have, but I love that.
So that's exactly it. And you're not fooling anyone.
Right.
They know you don't know anything. You've never done this. Yeah. So it's like, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat that, like, I'm the best real estate agent in Rochester, but I can tell you that I have a lot of integrity and I care about you and I want to learn and I want your business. So
that's a big thing, wanting somebody's business because you're going to take care of them, especially if you are like you and you see the long game, you want repeat business and you want referrals. Like,
totally. Well, that's how we live. Yeah. Right? Like, you can relate with your business. Like, referrals, word of mouth is huge, and all it takes is one bad interaction, right?
Yes,
like one slip up.
Every interaction will either lead to, well, in our business, a cancellation or a referral. You know? And it's the same. They're either going to say, no more Taylor.
Well, and do you want to know the biggest nightmare that I ever have, which is why I am so careful all of the time. I try to be. Like, of course, not everybody is perfect. We're going to make mistakes, but I always think about like a bad review. Yeah. Right. And that is your imprint. That's stuck on you. It's never going away. Yeah. And then all that person has to know is like maybe one other really great person. And then they tell that person that the experience wasn't there. And it's like, that's my biggest nightmare. So,
have you ever gotten a bad review? No.
Never.
Yeah, why would you?
I've literally never gotten a bad review, which I'm very grateful for. But, I mean, of course, there's been some unhappy endings, right? Like real estate, that's the other thing is like, well, you were mentioning the process. I don't know what your curiosity was with the process, but
I'm looking at it more from like a salesperson's perspective. Like I can have one conversation with somebody and close them in that conversation and my sales process is over. It's on to service. Yeah. But you, I mean, how long have we looked at houses?
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's not even the beginning, right? Like with you, it was a little different, obviously, because we're friends and we had a relationship. Yeah. But when I meet a stranger, the first thing we do now after COVID is like we meet on Zoom. Yeah. I never go out in the field with anybody until I've met them, at least on Zoom, even a phone call.
Because you want to qualify them?
Totally. Yeah. And beyond qualifying, like I meet with people all the time, first-time buyers that are not pre-approved. They really don't have a lot of money. But that's the goal is like, let's get on a Zoom so that we can figure out your itinerary. We need to know exactly what's going to come first and what's going to come last and everything in between.
So give me like your average client, start to finish. How long is it before you do the Zoom and before you get your commission?
So as soon as I meet someone, whether it's a referral, a phone call, someone like a lead from my team, we try to get them on the Zoom almost immediately within a couple of days, right? Because even if they're far out, there's never an early enough time. Like right now is the time. I don't care if you're looking in a year. You need to know what to be prepared for. Don't listen to the stigma. Because there's so much out there that everyone thinks that you need to have or, oh, I don't have this. I'm not going to be able to get a house and vice versa. So I would say almost immediately we want to get them on the Zoom. So we meet on the Zoom. It takes about an hour. We go through everything, get them set up on the MLS, which is the multiple listing service. So even if they're far out, they can still see what's available.
And that's almost like it's it's almost like a marketing tool for you because
yeah.
every day Taylor Presley sent you a new listing.
You'll never forget me.
No, yeah. So it's like even if, let's say I talk to you, you set me up on MLS, and then maybe I, get distracted with life a month or two, and I'm going to open up my email and see that you emailed me. So
well, and I have clients I've been working with. I'm going to go back to what you originally asked, but like it's just kind of coming to me. Like I have clients I've been working with, I'm not kidding, since 2019 that I've met at open houses and that we've met, we've built a relationship, and we've looked at several homes, and they just
haven't bought.
They can't. Like they're just not in the position either. It's the house. They're not finding what they want. They want to save more money. They took a long break, right? There's so many reasons, but there's people still in my life that I've still been nurturing for that long.
I can definitely relate with like patience in terms of like nurturing a relationship. I have a lot of people where I've talked to them, maybe they went with another company or they weren't ready to do marketing or whatever. And then maybe a year or so they come back around, or, I check in with them, whatever, I can do that part. What I really like admire and envy is you not losing your shit when somebody cannot make a decision. I have very little patience for indecisiveness, but that's all you're dealing with. Like you could have somebody that walks in and they love the house and like, you're like, yes, let's go. And then they're like, oh, I actually don't like that trim over there. Let's move on.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Well, I think that also comes with, so I keep going back to like anybody can get their real estate license. It's the skills, and that doesn't happen until you're surrounded by the right people and you're asking the right questions and you're learning the right way. Because if I allowed every person that did that, right? I don't really like that. I don't like the trim or whatever, whatever example. Or I don't really like this floor plan. It's, I don't like this. And then we go into the next house. I don't like this floor plan. And then we go into the third house. I still don't like this floor plan. Okay, so what has to change in order for you to like the floor plan? Yeah. Whereas some agents, right, and there's nothing wrong with this. Again, I've done this. It just comes with time where you say you have to ask the right question. Yeah. Like what will cause you then to enjoy the floor plan, right?
What
floor plan do we want then? And then it's like when they tell me, I'm not going to continue to show them houses with that floor plan. Yeah. I'm not going to continue to take them into homes that don't have the layout that they want, that don't have the air conditioning, that don't have the third bedroom, right? It's really, again, getting to know that person. Yeah. It's not just having your license and opening the door, which there is that stigma. Realtors are door openers, which is so far from the truth.
Anyone that says that knows nothing about real estate.
Loser.
Yeah, they're a loser also.
Totally.
Oh my God, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought.
Also, like the timeline, the process? Is that what we were talking
about?
We
can go back to the sales process. Yeah. Oh, no, I was going to say, when you're talking about the floor plan thing, the best thing you can do to help yourself close a sale is to ask really good questions.
Yeah, it is.
And that is so true for you, because if you don't figure out the deal breakers right away, you'll be showing houses to the same people for like years.
So that's why we do that Zoom, that initial Zoom meeting. And we have an inside sales agent on our team. So he's on the phones constantly. He's amazing. I personally could never do it. Yeah. You are the queen of I couldn't. No. I just couldn't. It's not who I am. It's not in my nature. Mainly because you asked, like, how do I deal with indecisive people? I can deal with, like, the, uncertainty in person and, like, on the ground. But if it's on the phone and someone is just, like, going at me with rejection after rejection, that's when I'm, like, screaming. I will start screaming. No, do not.
At a prospect.
I can't. I have no patience. But I know that about myself. In person and, like, getting under, like, in a different space with them, I'm good with that. I can't.
I'm sorry,
can't do it outside of that.
Hair emotional problems.
Okay. So yeah, I can't do the phone thing, but like in person. But that's why we do the Zoom. That's why we do that, so that I can better understand exactly what you're looking for. If you can describe to me your perfect home, right? What does that look like? Yeah. And that's why we do that. And I have so many people. I just want to see the house. I understand. I really do understand. You just want to see the house. And this is why we don't just run and show you the house.
Right. So. Do you ever have people that you talk to like on the Zoom call and you're like, we're not the right fit. I think you should try somebody else? I
am always up for a good challenge. So, Yeah, I have had a couple recently actually where I get off and I'm just like, oh, like I don't know if this is going to work. But at the same time, I'm like, but I want to help them. Like maybe they don't know that they need severe help, right? Like
you want to fix them.
They might not be a good, me fixing people. That's so weird. They might not know, right? So they might not be a good fit for most people. But it's like, just because maybe we're not a good fit on a Zoom camera, like through a video screen, doesn't mean we might not be a good fit in person.
And like you said, maybe they just need to learn more about the process.
And I think once there's also something to be said for like, okay, this person, maybe their financing isn't that great. Maybe they don't have that much money. Maybe they have really unrealistic expectations when it comes to the price. They're like, I'm going to look for a deal. It's like, well, this is not the market for you, right?
And also, it's not the purchase to look for a deal. This is your home.
Totally. So it's like, okay, when someone says that to me, though, again, going back to really compelling questions, what is it about a deal that excites you, right? Like, what is it? Is it just being able to tell your friends and family, I got a deal? Or
should we lower your budget?
Yeah. Like, do you not? I have people all the time that say, just so you know, I will not be spending $50,000 over ask. I will not be that person. It's like, okay, well,
you will also not get a house.
Yeah, also not the market for you. But at the same time, that's a whole nother strategy. The list price is just a strategy that the seller and the agent are coming up with.
So tell that to people that don't get that think like they're above putting over asking price.
So the strategy in Rochester, I'm solely speaking on behalf of Rochester, New York. That is the strategy that has remained tried and true. And I feel like us as realtors, like we've kind of created a monster because houses were selling so far over asking price that in such an uncertain time, right? So they were still selling. We all know. We know we put a house on the market today. It's going to sell within a week. We know that. But there's still this like barrier, this like stigma that's like, we still can't list the house, though, for what it's worth because it won't get as much attraction. It won't get as many showings.
Why do you think that is? Because they assume
if it's listed too high, it's going to go even higher.
Yeah.
Right? So you see a house listed for $150 in the suburbs. What?
Yeah.
Nobody's getting a house for $150 in the suburbs. No. Even like a shack that's like pummeled. It's not going to happen. You're not getting that house for $150. You're getting that house for probably closer to $200. But if we listed that house at $200, probably barely any showings, barely any interest. But as soon as you lower that price down, like vultures, people are all over it. So it's just the strategy. It's all a mind game.
As a seller, that makes me nervous.
It shouldn't.
I know what number I want to list my house at, and I know you're going to tell me it's too high. I know. And I'll let you do what you want, but like...
No, I think we started dabbling in this a little bit. We talked about it a little bit. Like that's the goal, though. Again, listing appointments, getting the agent in the door, because that's what we look at. We're going to take the most recent sales possible. And for your neighborhood, I mean, there's not many. There's not like a ton. But in your area, in your neighborhood, your house is also very unique. It's very specific, right? Like you've renovated the whole thing. There's so many stipulations. And it's a ranch. Or it's a cape. So it's totally different. But it lives like a ranch. So you want to like... It's trying to like fit this into like a puzzle, you know, like figuring out where does your house kind of fall in line with the rest of these recent sales. And then where do you fit that into the price? Because you don't want to list too high. You don't want to reject, you know, all of the potential interest in the house by being just a little bit over because you want a higher number.
What's the most you've ever seen a house, like you or your brokerage, seen a house go over asking?
I mean, I'll just speak on my behalf personally. There was a house that my clients got. It was like 280 over.
Oh, I love that for us personally.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's hard as a seller because you know what the house is worth, but then you, of course, are going to have the fear of, well, wait, if I list it 100 under its worth, am I going to get 100 over asking to bring it to where it's worth? Yeah. But like that's why you need a professional.
But if there's comps and data to prove it, why would you fight that, you know? And that's just it. I don't make the data. I don't make this up. I'm just here to help you interpret it. So if that's what's tried and true and that's what's showing up, it's not up to us to reinvent the wheel. I'm not going to change the market. So why would we, as, you know, a partnership, why would we go against the grain? And then ultimately it lands you in a place where you don't get what you want. Yeah. And like for you, example, you're moving on, right? Like you need to make sure that you get as much money as possible,
Yeah.
right? It's important. But you also want to make sure you have a really strong, solid offer that makes it to the closing table.
So, perfect segue. What do you think makes a strong offer? Because I think that's obviously a big problem is there's 20 to 50 buyers per house. What's the average number of offers on a listing right now?
Oh, like maybe 10.
So how do you win?
So I will start with the most, and this is, again, not everything I say is not what I think. It's what the market has shown up as, right? And these are just things that have shown to prevail. These are not things that I make up. I always say to my buyers that anything I ever recommend to you is just that. It's a recommendation. It's not something you have to do.
Yeah.
But in the event that you find a home that you love and you fall in love with and you say, Taylor, how do I win this house?
Yeah.
These are the things that I'll tell you. So first things first is obviously the price is going to be huge, right?
Yeah.
So really deep diving into the comps and using what we call an escalation clause. We use that on every one of your deals.
I love a good escalation clause.
Love a good escalation.
What does that mean?
So in most events, an escalation would be where, say you offer the asking price. So we're going to offer asking. In the event there are competing offers, we're going to be willing to pay X amount of dollars over that competing offer, but only up to a max number of X. So a house is listed for $200. I'm offering you $200, but I'm going to be willing to beat any other offer by $5,000, but only up to $280. I won't go a penny over $280. So any offers that come in that are between that range, say the highest offer is $275, you beat them at $280. So you win.
I just love it. It's
amazing.
So aggressive. It's
and I get asked this all the time. They're like, well, what if they just see our escalation and they're like, we're just going to take them there? They have to prove it. It's totally proven.
They have to prove the other offers.
They have to prove the other offer, the pre-approval, the proof of funds, whatever. It's proven by attorneys. Like, it's not. I've never had any funny business.
How about, speaking of funny business, an appraisal gap?
So it's funny that appraisal gaps still are such a hot topic because, like, they really don't happen that often. I mean, I help between 40 and 60 buyers and sellers on average per year. And I think in my whole career since 2020, we'll call it, when I was on my own, I think I've had like 3, maybe.
I was one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were.
Let me try to explain it. And if I'm wrong,
go ahead.
because I think people probably don't know what it is.
Okay.
An appraisal gap is when you offer so far over the asking price of a home, the bank does not appraise it that high. So there's a gap between what the bank is willing to fund.
Yeah. What they think the house is worth.
What they think the house is worth, because the bank's not going to overpay for the house.
Yeah. Well, they don't want you to buy a house that's not worth it.
Right.
Right. They don't want to give you the money for the house when clearly it's not worth that.
So if you offer 210, the bank appraises the house at 200. You as the buyer have to come out of pocket for the extra $10,000.
Correct.
Okay.
And that is why, in a lot of cases, what has happened in the last few years, sellers, agents, to protect their seller, have made buyers put it in their offer. In the event of an appraisal issue, buyer is willing to fill the gap up to $20,000 or what have you. And there are ways that the bank can help. You know, if you're really qualified and you're putting 20% down or more, they can kind of shuffle your money around a little bit. So you're not necessarily coming out of pocket more money. It just looks different on the loan.
Would you recommend that a buyer does that?
20% down?
No, fill the appraisal gap.
Well, we usually, when we do comps, and that's at least on my team and for me, we do not sell a single home without doing comps. Comps are always, I'm sure I've sent them to you many times. Like, comps are always a non-negotiable because for that reason, it's not just helping you strategize an awesome offer. It's to make sure that in the event it goes really high, which we probably know it's going to, are you going to be in a bad situation?
Is the comp what the bank appraises the house at?
The comp is what the house closes for. Like,
will
the
it
final
tell
sale
you
price.
if there was an appraisal gap?
No, it won't tell you, but it will tell you the terms. Like, it'll say on the very bottom, like if it was cash, conventional, FHA.
So this really isn't as big of a problem as I'm making it.
No, but it's also not happening, right?
Yeah.
Like, it does happen. But you typically, if you have a great agent, your agent will know if it's going to be a problem. Like, they'll be able to see on the comps, like, there's no way that this is going to appraise.
Is it stupid to do?
To fill the gap?
Yeah.
No, I mean, anyone that says, like, this is just like a home I'm going to live in for a year, I'm like, this, you shouldn't be buying it, you know?
Yeah.
But it all depends on the motivation, I think, you know? And I think it depends on a lot of like financial factors for you personally.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's stupid, because at the end of the day, it's also based off of opinion, if you think about it, right? Like, you could have 3 different home inspectors go into a house and find 10 different things each. Then you could have 3 different appraisers, and they might all deem the value a little bit differently.
And it's just so interesting, because what determines the value of a home? There's like the insurance value. What would it cost to replace all of this?
Sure.
But then there's also, as a buyer, what is this home worth to me? What am I willing to pay for a home? That's the value of a home too.
Right.
So when people are like, oh, like the house isn't worth that much. Yeah, it is. That's what somebody's willing to pay for it. That's exactly what it's worth.
Well, and so, yeah, going back to like our original question mark, it was like, what do you say to people when they're like, I'm not willing to pay that? And it's like, well, right. Like, what does that mean to you, though? Because this number that they have as a list price on this house is so absurdly, insultingly low that that's not even close to what the house is worth. So is it more important to you to say that you got an amazing home that you're in love with, or you only got it for this much over asking?
You almost have to, like, in the beginning of looking at a house together, you almost have to like set the stage immediately. Like, this house is worth $250. It will go for at least $250, not $199.
Yeah, it goes back to that conversation of just like your experience, you know, and being willing to learn and know what questions to ask. Because if Martina tells me my budget, my max budget for like financial reasons, not because I'm stubborn, because I don't have the ability to spend more than $400,000, we are not going to see homes that are listed for $400,000.
Right.
We're going to see homes that are listed for like $299.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So no, we wouldn't do that. But there are agents, and this is not me throwing shade at all. It's just like an experience. Like, there are agents that are like, well, the buyer wants to see it though, and I want to be everything that they need. So like, I'm gonna go show it to them. Yeah. And sometimes you have to do that. There are instances where you really want to help this buyer, and they do have a realistic expectation, but they really want to go see this house. Like, can we just go see it? And it's like, yeah, we're gonna go see it. And let's go even further and write an offer so that you can experience what it's like. Right. And then I get the phone call like, hey, we got 25 offers and ended up going for somewhere in the ballpark of X. And then I go to the buyer and they're like, wow, you weren't kidding.
You almost have to like let a new buyer go through that. Yeah.
Totally. And you have to be really careful. Like, this is me just like talking about the personal side of it. You have to be really careful not to come across like you're a know-it-all, right? You don't know me. I'm a complete stranger to you. I'm telling you I want to help you and I care about you and I love you.
Yeah,
and why would I care about you, right? That's probably what you're thinking. But at the same time, like, it is real. Like, I do genuinely want to help you because I want your referral business. Yeah. I want to have a partnership with you. And I realize that this isn't the easiest thing to do. It's scary. So you have to let them experience it for yourself instead of saying, well, this is what we talked about in our consult. I told you that houses are going to go 50,000 over. We're not going to waste our time. You can't do that. You know, you have to kind of lean into it a little bit and sympathize, because it is hard.
It's such a specific balance of being very like sensitive and patient and being still, you have to be really aggressive. You have to like win them over. Number one, being aggressive, and even winning somebody over and being aggressive at the same time is hard to do.
Yeah.
But you do that.
I obviously do that.
Okay, wait. I have one other thing that I wanted to talk about. So I work with insurance agents. They're always looking for, like you said, your sphere of influence, how to grow their own sphere of influence. And realtors is a big one that comes up because that's an insurance moment when you buy a new home. So what's going to make you want to refer an insurance agent to a home buyer?
That's a great question.
Do you care to?
Yeah.
You do?
We do have referral partners on my team. We do. But I also am, so the same thing, like if my team is referring a specific loan officer or somebody, I referred some loan officers to you. If there is someone that I had a really wonderful relationship with, I've had buyers come to me already pre-approved and they're working with this person. And I'm like, well, I personally don't have a relationship with them or I'm familiar with them, but I'm excited to get to know them, right?
Yeah.
So if I have a really compelling, like insane experience where they were like white glove, like everything about them from top to bottom was perfect. And Are we naming names?
Jolene. Yeah, I am. I can.
We love Jolene. We love Jolene. We love Premium. But I've also had great experiences with other banks, right? And they know that. Like, I love GRB. I have some great connects there. I have lots of connects at CNB, you know, like you build those relationships. So anyway, to answer your question, I do like to refer people that I know are going to show up for my people, right? So once I see that really great experience, that's it. Like, I'm then willing to say, like, you know what? They did such a good job for this one client. I'm going to see how they do again and give them the next chance. But I think it's really just, especially in real estate, the communication side of it is huge.
Yeah.
They're already going through so much. They already went through the ringer just to get the house.
Yeah.
You don't want to make it hell for them going forward.
And the closing and the approval and all of the paperwork that you need to do when you're buying a house is hell.
The bank is really tough, and I think they know that. Like, of course they know that. And so do we, though. And so, like, you're obviously familiar with my team and Brittany and how amazing she is. And, like, her consistency, like, her one thing is making sure that she gets our clients to the closing table and keeps in touch with the attorneys and the loan officer. Yeah. So that's her one job, and she makes sure that you never not know where you are in the process. Like, she wants to make sure that you are fully well aware of, like, we did just receive title. We are getting ready to schedule closing. Your loan officer will be in touch with you if she hasn't been already. You know, it's just constantly having that white glove. Like, I know exactly where I'm at, and I know that if I don't know where I'm at, I know who to contact.
Yeah.
Knowing, like, you're just sitting there lost is, like, the worst experience. That will make or break an entire experience.
Yeah, and there's nothing worse than when you're in that process and you, like, have a question and you, like, send an email or something and it's days before they get back. And you're like, hello, please answer my question. Yeah. Like, it's very timely, all of it.
I get asked that in consults all the time. Like, if they got a great referral for a bank or a lawyer for, you know, a previous transaction from a friend or family member, I will always say, like, you can work with whoever you want to, and the people that I do recommend, I recommend them for a reason, because they have done such an impeccable job for our past clients that they end up being so satisfied with the experience that they know that they're going to go back to them next time.
Yeah.
That's the goal. From top to bottom, we want me as the agent, all of our agents, and then everybody that was involved, like, they should get that repeat business. There's no reason why they shouldn't. And then everybody has to work way less hard. Yeah. Because then you're just getting that business back full circle. And if they're not coming back too, then their friends and family are. Yeah. That's number one priority.
One of my clients is your insurance agent. Are you referring him all your new home buyers?
Who?
Who's your insurance agent?
Which insurance?
I don't have insurance. Personal insurance.
My personal insurance?
Your car insurance.
Oh, my car insurance. Yeah. Sean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I haven't yet.
How many insurance agents do you have?
Well, I have life insurance.
Yeah.
It's not all, it's literally 5 different insurance companies.
Yeah.
Life insurance. I have health insurance, obviously. I have homeowners insurance.
Why is your home and your auto not together?
I don't know. I'm just running around having my insurance.
Taylor with like a quote on her home insurance.
I am very satisfied with my car insurance, though.
So why would you not move your home insurance there when you can get a multi-line discount? And you can call one place and your life insurance.
Sean, why are you not calling me and telling me
I don't know, Sean. I will take commission for this personally. Yeah. Call him when you leave here and tell him you want to move your home and your life insurance.
Tell Sean he needs to call me and let me know what my options are here. Okay. Coming from a girl who clearly lives in a globe of real estate and that's it. Yeah. I don't focus on anything else. 5 different
insurance. I mean, your health insurance is one thing, but like your home and auto and your life should all be together.
No.
With State Farm.
all different. They're all different. Yeah.
Wow.
I wonder if that's a common thing. Maybe you should take a poll.
I don't think it's common. That's why I reacted that way. I mean, it all depends because I feel like a lot of people just have car insurance still if they don't own a home. Yeah. They just have auto insurance. And if they have a good auto insurance agent, they're probably going to have renter's insurance too. But I don't think a ton of people our age have life insurance unless they have a kid or just a really good insurance agent. So.
I guess I've honestly, as shocking as that is, I've never even like thought it's just been like the first thing that's come to me. When I first got my house, we have like a partnership with an insurance company through like our broker. So, like, that's the first one that would be recommended.
Well, God forbid you ever have a homeowner's claim. You will be so happy you have State Farm and not whatever the broker.
Why is that?
Because just trust me.
They're the best.
Claim experience is just, if you have a claim with State Farm versus have a claim with a broker, like you get the 1-800 number experience with a broker. You if something happened to your house, Sean would be at your house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like
right.
it's just completely different. Yeah, we'll fix that.
We'll talk about this another time. Okay, Sean, I'll talk to you soon, bud.
Is there anything I missed? I love talking about real estate with you.
Know. Well, there's a huge topic we didn't talk about.
What?
Airbnb.
Oh my gosh.
How could we forget?
Can we come back and do another one? It's been an hour.
A whole segment. Has it been?
Yeah.
A whole segment on just Airbnb.
We're going to have to.
I obviously don't have my Airbnb anymore, but like the experience, I tell everybody about it. Like I loved my experience.
I think we should do a second episode on real estate investing because this was more of like you as a realtor and like I'm always very interested in other industry sales processes.
Yeah.
And more about the real estate market.
And you've learned it's not really a sales process. It's like
no, it's a relationship.
It's a relationship. That's all it is.
Okay. Well, I guess that's going to leave us with stay tuned for Taylor Part 2.
Taylor Part 2.
We're going to go work on her insurance.
That takes precedence, clearly, because we're very concerned.
Oh, my gosh.